Yes.
Great.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, welcome everybody. This is Between Two Teachers, and today's Monday, October 18th. And once again, we're bringing you issues of great importance to education and how, the pandemic, COVID has really focused in on school boards and vaccines and mandates, masks, etc. So we've got a lot of things to cover today. People are very emotional about these issues. So we want to bring you some facts about
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm Consuelo Lara.
I'm Madeline Cronenberg, and I'm going to give our land acknowledgement that we do every week. We pause to acknowledge that we have gathered on the ancestral territory of Huichin, which is part of the unceded land of the Chochenyo and Karkan-speaking Muwekma Ohlone people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland, and offer our respect to their elders and all Ohlone people of the past and present. And we welcome you this week, and as Ms. Laura has said, there has been a lot going on as all over this country. One of the interesting things, this is a follow-up to something we talked about here, which was that the National School Board Association wrote a letter to President Biden and the Department of Justice asking, talking about the problems at school board meetings. And you had just this week, your school board meeting became something that had a lot of people on it there, which normally is not true with the county, right?
Exactly.
And the letter that was written had to do with the fact that across the country, there have been people, board members, school board members, and superintendents, staff members, and other staff members who felt very threatened and who were threatened by angry parents. And it comes down to the issue of masking and the issue of vaccine, right? A mask mandates as they've been applied, and vaccine mandates. So there was a letter written from the National School Boards Association to the federal government, asking them to help these school board members and to be able to deploy basically security to keep these meetings safe. And now, and this just shows how divided we are as a country. And that's the biggest truism we have right now. And it's over so many different things, but including over this letter. Because when they wrote the letter, they wrote it without surveying their members. And out of the membership, they made some assumptions about their members. And they assumed that their members would agree that there shouldn't be violence at school board meetings. But their members wanted things more nuanced and said that they don't consider that states where they had not had such a problem, they felt they didn't want to be lumped in with this, that they didn't feel that their letter spoke for their membership. And so now there are 18 states so far that have written to the National School Boards Association and made public the fact that they had, well, what happened was somebody surveyed them, right? And this is a conservative group, but nonetheless, they surveyed the state school boards, and the ones who responded, like California's did not respond, because California School Board Association, I believe, would support this letter. New York School Board Association, most of the blue states didn't even respond. But the states that did respond said they didn't feel that they spoke for them, and they had wished that they in the future would do a survey first and then know which states agreed with them and which states didn't. So that's just one more proof of how complicated all of our issues are around this. And it's going to be a very hot political issue across the country in terms of all of the school board elections next November. And, before that, between now and then.
Yeah. And at the county office, when all of these parents, I'm not gonna, I'll assume they're all parents. Some of them are not sure, but they kept saying the same thing. So it was like they had talking points and were prompted. To me, it sounded like that, of saying, well, people are leaving California. You don't co-parent my child. This was really interesting. I'm not against vaccines. I'm vaccinated, but I'm against mandating. So I don't know if they realize how irrational they really do sound. But I just caution people to follow the money, you know, and look at who's behind a lot of these groups. And I still believe, like, I know they're very loud and vocal and they're not going to go away. But I just feel like they're not the majority. They're just not the majority.
Not in California.
No.
They may be in some states, right? There are, you know, so I watched this morning as that they had a rally, and there was a rally from a group called Parents of Freedom, Stop the Vaccine Mandate for Our Children. That was the name of the rally. And there were a large number of parents who went, but certainly not a majority of parents in California. But they were there. They are vocal. They are filing lawsuits. They are an attorney spoke at this event, which was on Facebook, and had said that she was able to get the legislature in Utah to pass a law absolutely banning a vaccine mandate and banning a mask mandate. But she did say she didn't think she would be able to do that in California. So in California, what their strategies will be is to go through the court system. And that's what they're doing. They're filing lawsuits in a variety of places. And there are different, the other difference of opinion is among school boards. So now we've had the first school board, Lucerne Valley School Board voted 5-0 to pass a resolution against the mandate. So there are all these different positions, but in the end, what we have is we have to come to an understanding that what will be coming up for the students in California is, if you aren't vaccinated by January, you're going to go into independent study. And it's really important that folks understand what independent study is, and whether or not there's a virtual alternative available to them. And if there isn't a virtual alternative, what exactly is independent study? Because it's not that you're not going to get educated. You will. You're just not going to be educated in the classroom, in the building.
Absolutely. It's clear these people have not thought this through, because the schools are not going to just buckle and say, okay, you don't have to be vaccinated. No, you are going to have to be vaccinated. Therefore, you're going to have to make a decision where your kids are going to go. And you may not like it if you have to deal with a big packet of papers with your student. So they have not thought this through. There
are more consequences, I think. That's the whole thing. And that they're real consequences that are going to happen. But it brings a lot of emotion. And so the meeting today had a lot of emotion. The Facebook group that was started around this in California grew tremendously over the last few weeks. And so there's a lot of energy right now around it.
You know, and as far as that CSBA thing, I know a lot of people are responding by saying the parents are not terrorists. Well, if you, and I saw this on TV, if you're threatening people's lives and their family and saying, I know where you live, and how is that not terrorism? You know,
that's the thing. That's right.
So I'm sorry, but
that's when you cross the line with that behavior. And when that's happening, it doesn't happen. You didn't have that happen at your meeting. It doesn't happen.
No.
I mean, we don't want to paint a broad brush. And honestly, I will say this morning, multiple times, the speakers at the event this morning did say, be polite, go, be sure to go to the meetings, express your opinion, but be sure you are polite at all times. They said that over and over again, because they're very conscious of, they're trying to make a point, right? They're trying to make the point, a very specific point around vaccine, right? And so but it can when you have very strongly held opinions, you can have people that are gonna cross the line, and that is why that letter was written.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Okay.
the other things that have happened is that in some places, well, your board's an example. People are going back to fully remote meetings for this very reason, right?
Yeah, we can't control parents deciding or public deciding to come in with no mask and then arguing with you when these are adults. It's not
Right.
like a school where you've got systems of discipline. These are grown-ups, and so we're putting ourselves, our staff, at risk if we come in and not be able to have that control. So we're going to stay virtual for the time being. We're going to
Until, yeah,
each month. Yes, yes. That's what we're
and
gonna
that's something that's happening, throughout the country. Everybody was looking at coming back, and it depending on what kind of agency you're in, they are or they aren't, right? So it's an interesting thing, and one of the things about it is some places have come back and not had any access to the public remotely. And the thing about remote meetings is the public has a lot more access.
Mhm.
Right? People who would never tune in or never go down to a meeting will now watch it, and it's an important thing to many people. So there's a whole issue around access,
Yeah.
as everybody's looking at what to do with the meetings.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to talk about was, there are a couple of initiatives that are going to be on the California ballot, that we can just look to. They're going to start, they mentioned them this morning at the meetings as well. They're going to start circulating them, and it's got to do with education, savings accounts that will provide money. Really, the people who are the big winners in these are private schools.
Yeah.
And because this is not a charter school issue. The charter schools are already there and they get the money. But right now California doesn't give money to families that send their children to private schools. That's a separate choice that you make. And this would allow that to happen. So that's what the education accounts are. So that's one of the things that's going to be on the board meeting, on the ballot.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll have a lot of call to actions on those for sure.
Right. As soon as they start coming out, that is exactly what we're going to have. And that's it, except what I did want to point out, I want to do a big shout out to my old school district, Hayward. And Hayward Unified is struggling in the sense that, as many districts are, with enrollment changes. And they've put out some information at their last board meeting that just tells the story of demographics in Hayward. And the demographics in Hayward, like a lot of places, was in the 60s, and the baby boomer, when the boom came and the children were growing, who came in after the GIs came home and bought their houses in Hayward. There were over 30,000 children in Hayward in 63 when they were at their height. And up here, there was like many more children as well in West Contra Costa, because there were children everywhere. And we all grew up then, or now here we are. But now there's 16,000 children, which is right. It's like half. So it's been in a huge decline, and the birth rate is declining, and they're expecting it to get lower and lower. So what Hayward is looking at is closing schools. And what my shout out is, not necessarily about closing schools, because that's its own issue, but something we talk about a lot is communication and how well districts communicate with their communities. And they have done a really, really good job in communicating this information really clearly. And I have been involved in school closures before, and it's always, it's incredibly emotional, and it's hard to find all the information in one place that tells the story. And they put together a sheet that tells what schools they're thinking of closing, where the children will go, what the what are they calling it? The receiving school. The opportunities available at the receiving school. Why you're going to the receiving school? Like for the first one they have is Bowman, and you're going there because it's a modern facility. It has additional staffing supports, increased continuity of programming, access to bilingual education, access to preschool and TK, and support team to assist with school community transition. That's why they're gonna close Bowman and send you to Terrell or Harder. That's not gonna make people not want, people at Bowman are gonna want to keep Bowman open.
Yeah,
But
upset.
at least it's there. And the reason they want to close Bowman, why change? And the other one is why change is needed, is it's a 70-year-old facility. Over 50% of the residents transfer to other schools. So it doesn't have any of its own residents.
Yeah, okay.
It's far below the optimal school size. Their optimal school size for an elementary school is 650 to 750. So I'm sure there's nowhere close to that. And it's at a capacity of less than 50%.
See, just common sense is what they're
It-
using. So
Yeah, it's clear, right? And the thing about this is, and I am all about keeping neighborhood schools open, but you can't, they have to have some economic reason to do it. And that, I think that the folks in Hayward are doing their best to work through what is going to be a lot of school closing coming up in Hayward. And right. And so, but the shout out is for how well they're moving it forward and how well they're communicating. And it's to their entire board, to their superintendent, Mr. what's his name? Matt, the superintendent, Matt, and whose name I just forgot, but and everybody who's part of their team in Hayward. And I wish them really great success. And they are moving, it's interesting, they're moving the Hayward Adult School where I used to work back to the building it used to be in before it was moved to Sunset. Nobody's saying that because none of them were there or remember it. But in the 90s, we were at the building that became Anthony Ochoa Middle School. Then we got moved, but now they want to move it back over there and I guess close what had been the Sunset High campus. But anyway, shout out to them.
Shout
And
out
you?
to them. I have a shout out. I visited, went to visit Deer Valley High School and to their CTE programs, and was very impressed with their culinary program and their multimedia program, which I was telling them, my son took multimedia at Berkeley Community College, and that program there, I said, this sounds exactly like what my son got. And they said, yeah, they have to articulate, because sometimes some kids go to DVC and they've already had that stuff. So they've been able to articulate it so that the kids can go to the next level.
All right.
So that is really working well. And they have a teacher program for working with little kids, but it's on the books to include school-aged children, their education program, and that's at Deer Valley. So, and these are county-supported programs. So my shout out is to Hillary Dido and also Dan Hannell, who did wonderful job of giving me that tour. I'm also going to go to Fremont Freedom School and also to Liberty, look at their CTE, and then Antioch High School as well. I mean, that's one of our passion is good practices for CTE, expanding these, and really looking forward to all that. So those are my shout outs to those two individuals, worked very hard in that area. And then the last, I just have one really great thing that I learned, that there was about 183 strikes this past week or so, and people are joining unions. Unions are getting more, are getting stronger. And this is just such good news to me, because that's how we grow the middle class back again, is through these unions. If you're not in a union, join one. If you don't have a union where you work, start one, because we need more.
Start one. And hopefully we won't have to celebrate having more strikes, but have people be able to come together and negotiate.
Negotiating.
Right? Because strike is a failure of the ability to negotiate. That's what it is. I mean, and for all different reasons. But I think it's a big thing that Americans are getting hopefully back into understanding and respecting the labor force, because that has to happen.
That's
So
what it's about.
thank
Okay.
you for bringing that up.
Yes.
And we'll be back. We'll see where we are next week with this as we continue on with the world of education and education in the news.
Yeah, ever changing for sure.
Ever changing. All right. Bye-bye.